One of the most dangerous illusions in human relationships is believing that everyone who stands beside you is standing beside you. Sometimes they are standing beside what you represent, your usefulness, your influence, your attention, your connections, your ability to solve problems, your success. As long as your presence improves their position, they have a reason to remain close. But remove the advantage, change the circumstances, and suddenly the warmth disappears. This is one of the harshest lessons life teaches. People often protect their interests before they protect their relationships. That does not make every person cruel. It makes them human. Most relationships are born from circumstances. You meet someone at school, at work, through business, through mutual friends, through shared ambitions or common interests. The environment creates proximity, and proximity creates familiarity. Familiarity creates the feeling of connection. But never confuse proximity with loyalty. A friendship can feel permanent simply because the conditions supporting it have remained unchanged. Then life changes. Money disappears, success fades, influence weakens. You stop solving their problems, you become less convenient. You become the person who needs help rather than the person who provides it. And suddenly you discover who was attached to your character and who is attached to your value. This is why difficult seasons are so revealing. Comfort allows almost anyone to appear loyal. Hardship forces people to choose. Watch those choices carefully. Do not listen too closely to what people promise. Watch what they repeatedly do when their interests conflict with yours. Watch who they protect when circumstances become complicated. Watch where their time goes. Watch what they sacrifice and what they refuse to sacrifice. Words reveal intentions. Patterns reveal character. Many people make the mistake of believing that greater generosity will purchase greater loyalty. They keep giving another favor, another opportunity, another piece of themselves, secretly hoping that their sacrifice will eventually be repaid with devotion. It rarely works. You cannot buy genuine loyalty with endless generosity. If someone stays only because you continue providing something, then what you have created is not loyalty. It is dependence. And dependence can disappear the moment the benefit disappears. This is where many people become bitter. They look at everything they gave and ask, how could this person leave after everything I did? But the better question is, did they ever promise to value you for who you were, or did you simply assume they would? That distinction changes everything. Your kindness is not a contract. Your sacrifices do not create invisible debts. Your loyalty does not obligate another person to become loyal in return. This may sound cold, but accepting it is strangely liberating. You stop demanding that people behave according to your moral code. You understand that people operate according to their own desires, fears, ambitions, insecurities, and priorities. You may never abandon someone during hardship. Another person might. You may keep every promise. Another person might keep only the promises that remain convenient. You are judging them through your character. They are acting through theirs. That is why expectations can become a hidden source of suffering. The moment you expect someone to always answer, silence becomes rejection. The moment you expect permanent loyalty, disagreement becomes betrayal. The moment you expect someone to sacrifice as much as you would, their self-interest begins to look like cruelty. But perhaps they never agreed to the rules you created inside your own mind. This is one of the greatest mistakes people make in relationships. They mistake their expectations for reality. They imagine a future version of someone and become loyal to that imaginary person. Then reality arrives. The person behaves exactly as their character has always suggested, and the disappointment feels like betrayal. But often, the betrayal occurred earlier. It happened when you stopped observing and started believing. So observe. Do not be hypnotized by intensity. Some people become extraordinarily affectionate in the beginning. They speak as though you've known each other forever. They promise permanence before time has given them the opportunity to prove consistency. Do not be impressed. Loyalty rarely needs an announcement. It reveals itself quietly. It appears when helping you becomes inconvenient. It remains when there is nothing to gain. It tells you the truth when lying would be easier. It celebrates your success without secretly resenting it. It respects you when you are no longer useful. That is the difference between attention and loyalty. Kindness is not always loyalty. Attention is not always commitment. Time together is not always friendship. People can enjoy your company and still choose their interests over you when the stakes become high. There is nothing wrong with this reality. The mistake is refusing to see it. Some relationships belong to a season, some belong to an environment, some exist because two people happen to need the same thing at the same time, and some are rare enough to survive the destruction of those circumstances. Do not demand that every relationship become permanent. Instead, learn to recognize what each relationship actually is. If someone is a good companion, appreciate the companionship. If someone is a useful professional connection, respect the connection. If someone is genuinely loyal, value them deeply. But never build your entire emotional security upon another person's consistency. Because people change, their ambitions change, their responsibilities change, their fears change, their priorities change. And when those things change, their behavior may change with them. The strongest person is not the one who never gets disappointed. It is the person who no longer depends on other people's behavior to maintain inner stability. They appreciate affection without becoming addicted to it. They accept kindness without immediately calling it loyalty. They observe promises but trust patterns. They give without keeping an invisible ledger of what must someday be returned. And most importantly, they stop trying to force permanence where there is none. This does not mean becoming cynical. Cynicism sees betrayal everywhere. Wisdom simply refuses to be surprised by it. There are loyal people in the world, they are simply rare. And rarity is what makes something valuable. When you finally understand this, your relationships become clearer. You stop chasing people who repeatedly choose convenience over connection. You stop begging for consistency from inconsistent people. You stop interpreting every departure as proof that something is wrong with you. You simply observe. You remember, and you adjust your investment accordingly. The lesson is not to trust no one. The lesson is to trust according to evidence. Give people access gradually. Let time expose their priorities. Let difficulty reveal their character. Let repeated behavior, not emotional promises, determine how much of yourself you place in their hands. Because eventually every relationship reaches a moment when circumstances remove the mask. And when that moment comes, you will discover something important. People rarely reveal who they are when everything is going well. They reveal who they are when loyalty becomes expensive. That is when you should pay attention, not to what they say, to what they choose. There is a dangerous mistake people make when judging relationships. They assume that the people who surround them during prosperous times will remain when circumstances turn against them. They confuse presence with loyalty. But loyalty is not revealed when life is comfortable. It is revealed when remaining beside you becomes inconvenient. When you are successful, people have reasons to be near you. Your confidence attracts them. Your connections benefit them. Your victories create excitement. Even your problems may be useful if you are the person capable of solving them. But remove those advantages and observe what remains. This is where human nature becomes visible. A difficult season is a powerful filter. It removes the people who are attracted to the rewards surrounding you and leaves behind those who value something deeper. Do not be afraid of this process. Study it. When your circumstances change, watch who becomes distant. Watch who suddenly becomes too busy. Watch whose messages become shorter. Watch who remembers you only when they need something. Do not confront everyone. Do not demand explanations. Simply observe. Because when people reveal their priorities through repeated behavior, there is little wisdom in arguing with what you have already seen. The inexperienced person reacts emotionally. The wiser person collects information. This distinction matters. If someone disappears when you can no longer provide what they wanted, their departure is not necessarily a tragedy. It is information. They have shown you the foundation upon which the relationship was built. And information is valuable. Many people waste years trying to resurrect relationships that circumstances have already exposed as temporary. They keep giving, hoping generosity will create loyalty. They keep forgiving, hoping patience will transform character. They keep explaining their worth to people who have already decided what they value. This is a losing strategy. You cannot manufacture loyalty through sacrifice. You cannot force respect through availability. And you cannot make someone value your presence by constantly proving how useful you can be. The more desperate you become to keep someone, the more power you surrender to them. This is why emotional independence is not merely a form of personal strength. It is protection. If your happiness depends upon another person's attention, they possess influence over your emotional state. If your confidence depends upon their approval, their opinion becomes a weapon. If your identity depends upon their presence, their departure can make you question yourself. Never give another person that much control. Build an inner foundation strong enough that people can enter your life without becoming its foundation. This does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming difficult to manipulate. You can care deeply without becoming dependent. You can love people without needing them to remain forever. You can appreciate loyalty without demanding it. And you can accept someone's departure without allowing it to destroy your sense of worth. This is the mindset that changes relationships completely. Instead of asking, "How do I make this person stay?" you begin asking, "What has this person consistently shown me about who they are?" That question shifts your attention from fantasy to evidence. Do not judge people by their most beautiful promises. Judge them by their repeated choices. Anyone can speak about loyalty when loyalty costs nothing. The real test begins when loyalty becomes inconvenient, when helping you requires time, when defending you carries a risk, when supporting you provides no reward, when your success is replaced by struggle. That is when the performance ends. That is when character begins speaking. Some people will surprise you in the best possible way. They will remain when there is nothing obvious to gain. They will support you quietly rather than loudly. They will tell you the truth even when the truth is uncomfortable. They will respect you when you are struggling just as they respected you when you were succeeding. These people are rare. Do not take them for granted, but do not expect everyone to be like them. One of the fastest ways to become bitter is to demand exceptional character from ordinary people. People have changing priorities. They have ambitions, fears, responsibilities, insecurities, and desires. Sometimes they leave because they no longer want the relationship. Sometimes they leave because life pulls them elsewhere. You do not need to hate them. You only need to understand them. There is enormous power in replacing resentment with observation. When someone disappoints you, ask yourself, did they betray me? Or did they simply fail to fulfill an expectation I created without their agreement? That question can save you from years of unnecessary anger. Not every disappointment is betrayal. Not every ending is abandonment. Not every change means someone stopped caring. But repeated disrespect, dishonesty, manipulation, and one-sided behavior should never be romanticized as loyalty. Keep your standards, maintain your boundaries, but release the fantasy that everyone you love must remain exactly the same forever. That fantasy creates emotional weakness. Reality creates strength. The mature person understands that relationships have seasons. Some people enter your life to teach you, some remain for a chapter, some remain for years. And a rare few prove, through consistent action, that they deserve a permanent place in your trust. Your task is not to force every person into the final category. Your task is to recognize which category they have earned. This requires patience. Watch, listen, remember. Patterns reveal what individual moments conceal. Someone may disappoint you once because they are human, but if the same behavior appears repeatedly, it is no longer an accident. It is a pattern. And patterns deserve more attention than promises. The strongest people understand this without becoming cynical. They do not assume everyone is secretly against them. They simply refuse to give unlimited trust without evidence. They remain kind without becoming naive. They remain generous without becoming easy to exploit. They remain open without becoming dependent. This balance is power, because the person who can stand alone is difficult to control. They do not beg for attention. They do not chase people who repeatedly withdraw. They do not tolerate disrespect simply because they fear loneliness. They understand that temporary loneliness is often less damaging than permanent dependence. And once you understand this, relationships become simpler. You stop trying to convince people to value you. You stop measuring your worth by the size of your social circle. You stop confusing attention with loyalty. You stop confusing emotional intensity with character. You stop demanding permanence from people who have only offered companionship. And something unexpected happens. You become calmer. You begin choosing people instead of needing them. You appreciate those who stay, but you no longer fear those who leave. Your peace is no longer held hostage by another person's decision. That is the final lesson. Do not build your identity around who chooses to remain beside you. Build it around who you are when no one is watching. Let people reveal themselves through time. Let adversity expose priorities. Let actions outweigh promises. Let loyalty be demonstrated rather than demanded. And when someone walks away because circumstances have changed, do not waste your strength chasing what no longer exists. Study what happened, learn from it, adjust your trust, then continue forward. Because the goal is not to create a life where nobody ever leaves. That life does not exist. The goal is to become so grounded in your own character, purpose, and self-respect that whoever stays becomes a blessing, not a requirement. When you reach that point, disappointment loses much of its power. You no longer need everyone to remain. You only need to know who has earned the privilege of staying.